reports from Moscow suggesting a number of people have been killed and wounded during a shooting at a concert hall there. Videos posted online also show smoke appearing to emerge from the Crocus concert hall. Now, Russian news agencies say at least 3 people dressed in camouflage opened fire at the venue.
The devastating terrorist attack at the Crocus City Hall has left the nation in mourning. As the investigation unfolds, the U.S. finds herself in the midst of the investigation. Could it be that the U.S. knows something about the attack and is hiding them? Crocus City Hall attack. In the heart of Moscow, a vibrant city known for its rich cultural heritage, tragedy struck on Friday night, the 22nd of March 2024, day at the Crocus City Hall. The stage was set for a rock concert that would soon turn into a nightmare. Little did the concert-goers know that their evening of entertainment would be marred by an unimaginable act of violence. As the sun began to set on that ill-fated day, scores of people gathered at the Crocus City Hall, eagerly anticipating the performance of the beloved Soviet-era rock group Picnic. The atmosphere was electric, with excitement and anticipation filling the air. The concert hall, with its capacity of 6,200 seats, was buzzing with energy as fans eagerly awaited the start of the show. However, amidst the sea of eager faces, a group of armed men had sinister intentions. 4 gunmen armed with automatic weapons had infiltrated the concert venue, blending in with the unsuspecting crowd. Their presence went unnoticed, concealed by the excitement and anticipation that filled the air. As the clock ticked closer to the scheduled start time of the concert, the tension in the air was palpable. The crowd's anticipation reached its peak, and the atmosphere was charged with excitement. But in an instant, the joyous atmosphere was shattered by the sound of gunfire. The 4 gunmen, with their faces masked by a veil of darkness, stormed into the concert hall, their weapons raised and ready to unleash chaos. Panic and confusion erupted as the concert-goers realized the horrifying reality of the situation. The once celebratory atmosphere transformed into a scene of terror and chaos. Without warning, the attackers opened fire on the unsuspecting crowd. The sound of gunshots reverberated through the concert hall, drowning out the screams of terrified civilians. Concert-goers, caught off guard and defenseless, fell to the ground, desperately seeking cover from the hail of bullets. The attackers showed no mercy as they fired their weapons in short bursts, their actions fueled by a sinister intent. The once vibrant concert hall became a battlefield, with innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. The scene was reminiscent of past tragedies that had befallen the nation, such as the infamous Beslan school siege in 2004. In the midst of the chaos, the concert-goers fought for their lives, their screams of terror mingling with the sound of gunfire. The attackers, driven by a twisted ideology, continued their assault on the defenseless crowd. The concert hall, once a symbol of joy and celebration, became a haunting reminder of the fragility of life. In the wake of the devastating attack at the Moscow concert hall, the city was left reeling from the unimaginable loss of life. The once vibrant venue now stood as a grim reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded within its walls. As the dust settled and the chaos subsided, the nation turned its attention to the immediate aftermath of the attack. Meanwhile, the Russian people, shocked and grieving, sought solace in coming together to honor the memory of the victims. Outside the Crocus City Hall, a makeshift memorial began to take shape. Flowers, candles, stuffed animals, and posters were brought by mourners, creating a poignant tribute to those who had lost their lives. Flags were raised to half-staff on the Russian House of Parliament and other buildings, symbolizing the nation's collective grief. Throughout Russia, numerous memorials were erected, serving as a testament to the resilience and unity of the Russian people in the face of tragedy. As the nation mourned, the rescue operation came to a close, but the search for answers continued. The rubble was painstakingly cleared, with rescue dogs tirelessly searching for any signs of life. The death toll stood at over 130, but fears lingered that the number could rise as the identification of victims by their grieving relatives lay ahead. In hospitals across the region, doctors fought tirelessly to save the lives of the 107 injured individuals. The resilience and determination of the medical professionals were a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Russian people in the face of adversity. Long lines formed in Moscow as people came forward to donate blood, demonstrating their solidarity and support for the victims and their families. Blood banks announced that they now had enough supplies to sustain the needs of the injured for the next 4 to 6 months, a testament to the outpouring of compassion from the community. In the aftermath of the devastating Moscow attack, investigators swiftly launched a thorough investigation to uncover the truth behind this heinous act. The governor of the Moscow region, accompanied by a team of dedicated investigators, arrived at the site to assess the extent of the damage and gather crucial evidence. Walking through the burned-out shell of what was once a vibrant entertainment complex, the governor witnessed the true scale of the destruction. The fire that engulfed the complex had caused parts of the roof to collapse, leaving behind a haunting reminder of the tragedy that unfolded. As the investigation unfolded, authorities began piecing together the events leading up to the attack. It was revealed that the 11 suspects, including 4 gunmen, had been detained in the Bryansk region, approximately 4 hours away from Moscow. This region, bordering Belarus and Ukraine, became a focal point in the search for answers. The investigation team meticulously combed through the evidence, analyzing every detail to establish a clear timeline of events. They studied surveillance footage, eyewitness testimonies, and forensic evidence, determined to bring those responsible to justice. As the investigation progressed, a clearer picture began to emerge. The attackers had entered the entertainment complex through a likely entry point identified in satellite images. Their route through the complex was traced, revealing their calculated movements and the areas they targeted. Videos taken on the ground provided crucial insights into the attackers' route. Starting from the foyer where the first shots were fired, they moved with chilling efficiency towards the auditorium. Spraying bullets as they went, they left a trail of devastation in their wake. The investigation team faced numerous challenges as they worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. The complexity of the case, the vast amount of evidence to sift through, and the need to ensure a thorough and unbiased investigation all added to the pressure they faced. As the investigation continued, the question of who was truly to blame remained disputed. As news of the terrorist attack at Crocus City Hall broke, the world held its breath in shock and disbelief. The UN Security Council, in a statement issued shortly after the attack, condemned the heinous act in the strongest terms. The Security Council members expressed their solidarity with the victims and their families and underlined the urgent need to hold the perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors accountable for their acts of terrorism. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who happened to be on a visit to Egypt's border with the Gaza Strip at the time, firmly condemned the attack on the concert hall. In a press conference, he described the attack as absolutely intolerable and called for immediate international cooperation to prevent ISIS from carrying out further attacks anywhere in the world. NATO spokesperson Farah Daklala issued a strong condemnation, stating that nothing could justify such heinous crimes. The military alliance extended its deepest condolences to the victims and their families, standing in solidarity with Russia during this difficult time. NATO recognized the importance of unity in the face of terrorism and reaffirmed its commitment to combating this global threat. President Xi Jinping of China sent his condolences to Russian President Vladimir Putin, emphasizing China's opposition to all forms of terrorism. He strongly condemned the terrorist attack and expressed firm support for Russia's efforts to safeguard its national security and stability. China, like many other nations, recognized the importance of standing together against terrorism, regardless of its origins. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey also strongly condemned the attack, describing it as a heinous act of terrorism targeting innocent civilians. He emphasized that terrorism is unacceptable, regardless of its source or the identity of the perpetrators. Erdogan expressed Turkey's solidarity with Russia, acknowledging the shared pain and vowing to continue the fight against terror, which he referred to as the common enemy of humanity. Also, White House spokesperson John Kirby expressed the horror and sadness felt by the United States, stating that the images of the attack were hard to watch. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also denounced the attack, emphasizing that the United States condemns terrorism in all its forms. In a statement, he sent heartfelt condolences to the families of those killed and all those affected by this heinous crime. The European Union, EU, was shocked and appalled by the attack on Crocus City Hall. The EU condemned any attacks against civilians and expressed its solidarity with all Russian citizens affected by this tragedy. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also condemned the attack, emphasizing the need to shed light on these odious acts. These strong reactions from world leaders demonstrated the global outrage and determination to combat terrorism. The international community stood united in condemning the Crocus City Hall attack and called for justice to be served. As the world mourned the lives lost in this tragic event, leaders and organizations from various countries continued to express their condolences and support. Who is responsible for the attack?
The horrific news out of Russia, where the terrorist group ISIS-K has claimed responsibility for an attack that has taken over 130 lives at a popular concert hall near Moscow.
The attack in Moscow has left a deep scar on the nation and the world. The horrifying details of the attack, from the indiscriminate shooting to the hurling of Molotov cocktails, have shocked us all. One of the many questions asked is who is responsible for the attack? Well, in a chilling update, the claim of responsibility has been made by Islamic State. Khorasan Province ISIS-K, a branch and affiliate of ISIS, has a deep-rooted animosity towards Russia, viewing it as an enemy that must be punished. One of the key reasons behind ISIS-K's hostility towards Russia is its support of the Taliban in Afghanistan. This is the very region from which ISIS-K originates. The group sees Russia's alliance with the Taliban as a betrayal, as they consider the Taliban to be their enemy. This ideological clash has fueled their desire for revenge against Russia. Furthermore, ISIS-K believes that Russia has mistreated Muslims, particularly those who align with their extremist views. They perceive Russia's actions as an affront to their interpretation of Islam, and this fuels their hatred and desire to inflict harm. The attack in Moscow serves as a chilling reminder of the lengths to which ISIS-K is willing to go to exact revenge and spread fear. By targeting a popular concert hall, they aim to strike at the heart of Russian society, disrupting the lives of innocent civilians and instilling a sense of terror and insecurity. ISIS-K's claim of responsibility for the attack further solidifies their role as a dangerous and ruthless terrorist organization. Their willingness to take credit for such a heinous act demonstrates their commitment to their twisted ideology and their desire to sow chaos and destruction. As the investigation into the attack continues, the world remains on high alert, concerned about what ISIS-K may do next. The ability of the group to carry out such a devastating attack, despite warnings from the United States, raises questions about the effectiveness of global counterterrorism efforts. The attack in Moscow has sent shockwaves throughout the world, raising concerns about the future actions of ISIS-K. The ability of the group to carry out such a devastating attack, despite warnings from the United States, highlights the need for heightened vigilance and cooperation among nations in the fight against terrorism. The attack serves as a grim reminder that ISIS-K remains a formidable threat, capable of inflicting immense harm on innocent civilians. Their claim of responsibility for the attack in Moscow further solidifies their position as a ruthless and determined terrorist organization. The implications of this attack extend beyond the immediate loss of life and destruction. It has shaken the sense of security within Russia and has prompted a reevaluation of security measures at large gatherings and public venues. Concerts, which are meant to be moments of joy and celebration, have now become potential targets for terrorist attacks. The attack also raises concerns about the global reach of ISIS-K. Their ability to strike in different countries, such as Afghanistan, Iran, and now Russia, demonstrates their capacity to carry out coordinated and deadly operations. This poses a significant challenge for intelligence agencies and security forces worldwide. In a shocking revelation, a blame game has begun to unfold amidst the chaos. Russian President Vladimir Putin has claimed that the gunmen who launched a deadly attack on the Moscow concert hall were attempting to escape to Ukraine. The suburban music hall was left in ruins as the death toll surpassed 130. The assailants opened fire on concert-goers, causing chaos and panic. Russian President Vladimir Putin did not explicitly mention the involvement of the Islamic State group in his speech to the nation. Instead, he accused the attackers of attempting to escape to Ukraine, igniting a fierce debate between Russia and Ukraine. Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, vehemently denied any involvement in the assault, labeling Putin's claims as false and manipulative. Ukrainian officials accused Putin and other Russian politicians of using the attack to stoke fervor for Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine, which had already entered its third year. The tensions between the two countries reached new heights as they traded accusations and pointed fingers at each other. Meanwhile, U.S. intelligence officials confirmed the claim made by the Islamic State group's Afghanistan affiliate, stating that the group bore sole responsibility for the attack. National Security Council spokeswoman Adrienne Watson emphasized that there was no Ukrainian involvement whatsoever. The U.S. had even shared information with Russia in early March about a planned terrorist attack in Moscow and had issued a public warning to Americans in Russia. The aftermath of the attack was marked by a swift response from Russian authorities. President Putin declared the incident a bloody, barbaric terrorist act and announced the arrest of 4 suspects. He claimed that these individuals were captured while attempting to escape to Ukraine through a prepared window on the Ukrainian side of the border. Russian media broadcasted videos showing the detention and interrogation of the suspects, shedding light on their alleged involvement. Reports emerged identifying the gunmen as citizens of Tajikistan, a predominantly Muslim former Soviet republic in Central Asia that borders Afghanistan. Tajik migrants who have worked in Russia in significant numbers came under scrutiny as many questioned the potential implications of the attackers' nationality. However, Putin rejected calls for a crackdown on Tajik migrants, emphasizing the importance of unity in Russia's multi-ethnic society. The incident was a major embarrassment for Putin, coming just days after he solidified his grip on the country for another 6 years in a vote that witnessed a harsh crackdown on dissent. As questions arose about how the authorities failed to prevent the attack despite U.S. warnings, the assault served as a grim reminder of the ongoing threats faced by societies worldwide. In the wake of the attack, hundreds of people in Moscow stood in line to donate blood and plasma, demonstrating solidarity and resilience in the face of adversity. The nation mourned the loss of innocent lives and vowed to take additional security measures to prevent such incidents in the future. However, the conflicting narrative surrounding the attack continued to fuel tensions between Russia and Ukraine, leaving the world on edge as the aftermath unfolded. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky swiftly responded to the accusations made by Russian officials, vehemently rejecting Moscow's claims and denouncing them as an attempt to shift the blame to Ukraine while treating their own people as expendables. In a statement on his messaging app channel, Zelensky expressed his outrage at the accusations, stating, "They are burning our cities, and they are trying to blame Ukraine. They torture and our people, and they blamed them. They drove hundreds of thousands of their terrorists here to fight us on our Ukrainian soil, and they don't care what happens inside their own country." Zelensky's words reflected the frustration and anger felt by many Ukrainians who have been caught in the crossfire of the ongoing conflict with Russia. Ukrainian officials have also vehemently denied any involvement in the attack. Mikhailo Podolyak, a senior advisor to President Volodymyr Zelensky, took to Twitter to state that Ukraine has nothing to do with the attacks and has never resorted to terrorist methods. He emphasized that such actions are always pointless and go against Ukraine's principles. The accusations made by Russian lawmakers immediately after the attack further fueled the tensions between the two countries. These lawmakers pointed the finger at Ukraine, suggesting its involvement in the assault. However, Kiev strongly denied any connection to the attack and accused Russia of falsely linking Ukraine to the incident to stoke fervor for its war in Ukraine. The war between Russia and Ukraine has been ongoing for 3 years, with both sides locked in a bitter struggle for control over eastern Ukraine. The conflict has resulted in thousands of deaths and displacement of civilians, leaving deep scars on both nations. The attack at the Moscow concert hall served as a stark reminder of the fragile state of relations between Russia and Ukraine, with each side quick to blame the other for any act of violence. The accusations made by Russian lawmakers against Ukraine also raised concerns about the potential consequences for Ukrainian citizens living in Russia. Many Russian hardliners called for a crackdown on Tajik migrants, but Putin appeared to reject this idea. The conflicting narratives between Russia and Ukraine highlighted the deep-rooted animosity and mistrust between the two nations. While Ukraine vehemently denied any involvement in the attack, Russia's insistence on linking Ukraine to the assault only served to exacerbate the already strained relations. The war in Ukraine has been marked by propaganda and disinformation campaigns from both sides, further complicating the search for truth and accountability. As the investigation into the attack continued, the focus shifted to uncovering the motives and connections of the attackers. The identification of the gunmen as citizens of Tajikistan raised questions about the potential influence of external actors in the region. Tajikistan's foreign ministry denied initial reports of Tajik involvement in the raid, but did not immediately respond to requests for comment about the arrests. The investigation would undoubtedly shed more light on the complex web of connections and motivations behind the attack. The attack at the Moscow concert hall not only claimed the lives of innocent concertgoers, but also deepened the rift between Russia and Ukraine. The conflicting narratives and accusations only serve to heighten tensions and hinder any prospects for reconciliation. As the investigation continued, the world watched with bated breath, hoping for answers and a path towards peace in the region. What part does the U.S. play? The recent attack in Moscow has brought significant attention to a warning issued by the U.S. Embassy prior to the incident. U.S. intelligence agencies operate under a policy known as duty to warn, which requires them to alert potential victims, including non-Americans, of imminent lethal threats, as long as it does not compromise sources and methods of intelligence gathering. This policy applies to all countries, including U.S. adversaries. However, the U.S. Embassy warning has been interpreted by many Russian officials and media figures as evidence of U.S. involvement in the attack. This interpretation has added another layer of complexity to the already tense situation between Russia and Ukraine. It is important to note that there is no exception for U.S. adversaries when it comes to the duty to warn policy. In fact, the U.S. privately warned Iran's government ahead of the ISIS bombings in January, demonstrating that this policy is not exclusive to friendly nations. However, the Russian response to the U.S. Embassy warning reflects the deep-seated suspicions and animosity between the two countries. The accusation of U.S. involvement involvement in the attack plays into the broader narrative of external interference in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Both sides have accused each other of receiving support from foreign powers and engaging in covert operations to further their respective agendas. These accusations have fueled the already intense propaganda war and contributed to the deepening divide between the two nations. While it is essential to consider the geopolitical dynamics at play, it is equally important to approach these accusations with a critical mindset. The absence of concrete evidence linking the U.S. to the attack, coupled with the fact that the duty to warn policy is a standard practice, suggests that these accusations may be driven by political motivations rather than factual evidence. ISIS-K, which is the affiliate of the terror group that operates in Afghanistan and the surrounding region. This branch of ISIS has gained notoriety for its ruthless tactics and relentless pursuit of chaos and destruction. Now it seems that their sights are set on Russia. The intelligence reports paint a chilling picture of ISIS-K's determination to carry out attacks within Russian borders. These reports, coming from reliable sources, have raised serious concerns among security agencies and governments worldwide. The threat of terrorism has once again reared its ugly head, reminding us of the constant vigilance required to combat this global menace. This policy, rooted in the principle of international cooperation and the shared goal of combating terrorism, mandates that the U.S. government shares credible and actionable intelligence with foreign governments when there is a potential threat to their citizens or national security. In this case, the U.S. government fulfilled its duty by promptly notifying Russian authorities about the planned attack targeting large gatherings, including concerts. The communication between the U.S. and Russian authorities underscores the significance of collaboration in the fight against terrorism. By sharing this critical information, the U.S. government aimed to prevent the attack and protect innocent lives. However, the revelation of this cooperation raises questions about the response and actions taken by Russian authorities in light of the warning. Russian President Vladimir Putin, in a fiery response, criticized the American warnings as provocative and likened them to outright blackmail. He accused the U.S. of attempting to intimidate and destabilize Russian society. Putin's strong words added fuel to the already tense relationship between the two nations, raising questions about the underlying dynamics and potential implications. As the dust settled after the Crocus City Hall attack, the United States wasted no time in attempting to bail out Ukraine by pointing fingers at the Islamic State, also known as ISIS. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova has shed light on this perplexing situation, revealing a web of hidden agendas and ulterior motives. The American political engineers cornered themselves with their tales that the Crocus City Hall attack was carried out by the ISIS terror group, hence Washington's daily bailing out of its wards in Kiev and the attempt to cover itself and the Zelensky regime they created with the scarecrow of the outlawed ISIS. These words from Zakharova raise serious questions about the U.S.'s involvement and their eagerness to shift blame onto ISIS. But what could be the underlying reasons behind this bailout attempt? To understand the full picture, you need to understand the factors that indicate the U.S. authorities' involvement in sponsoring Ukrainian terrorism. Billions of dollars and an unprecedented amount of weapons have been funneled into the Kiev regime, often without any accountability. Corruption schemes have been used to prop up the regime, while aggressive rhetoric against Russia and rabid nationalism have fueled the conflict. The ban on peace talks and the endless calls for a forceful resolution of the conflict further highlight the U.S.'s questionable intentions. And let's not forget the refusal to condemn the years-long terror attacks carried out by the Kiev regime. It seems that the U.S. has been providing massive informational and political support to even the most atrocious actions of Zelensky. But why would the U.S. go to such lengths to bail out Ukraine and cover their tracks with the mention of ISIS? The answer lies in the complex world of international politics, where money and power often dictate actions. The U.S.'s intervention in Middle Eastern affairs has previously led to the emergence and institutionalization of radical and terrorist groups. Could it be that they are now showing controlled chaos and reshaping the world order through the hands of terrorists? The consequences of the U.S.'s actions and their attempt to bail out Ukraine by blaming ISIS are far-reaching, with potential repercussions for both Ukraine and the international community. Firstly, the U.S.'s unwavering support for the Kiev regime, despite its questionable actions, has further fueled the conflict in Ukraine. The aggressive rhetoric and nationalist sentiments have only deepened the divide, making it increasingly difficult to find a peaceful resolution. Secondly, the U.S.'s refusal to condemn the years-long terror attacks carried out by the Kiev regime raises serious concerns about their commitment to justice and stability. By turning a blind eye to these actions, they risk perpetuating a cycle of violence and instability in the region. The repercussions of the U.S.'s actions extend beyond Ukraine's borders. The international community is left questioning the credibility and and motives of the U.S. government. Their intervention in Middle Eastern affairs, which inadvertently strengthened radical and terrorist groups, has already had devastating consequences. Now, with their involvement in Ukraine, the fear of further destabilization looms large. The U.S.'s attempt to bail out Ukraine by mentioning ISIS not only deflects attention from their own involvement, but also risks creating a false narrative that could have severe implications for global security. It doesn't help that the U.S. has had some history with ISIS-K.
This same terror group also claimed responsibility for the attack that killed 13 American service members in Afghanistan in August of 2021.
On August 26, 2021, 2 suicide bombings outside the Kabul airport claimed the lives of at least 169 Afghans and 13 U.S. troops. But how did ISIS-K manage to carry out such devastating attacks? The answer lies in their deep knowledge of U.S. intelligence operations. It is believed that ISIS-K had infiltrated various intelligence networks, gathering crucial information about the movements and vulnerabilities of U.S. forces and their allies. The connection between ISIS-K and U.S. intelligence goes beyond these specific incidents. Experts have long suspected that there are deeper ties between the two entities. It is believed that some members of ISIS-K were once part of U.S.-backed rebel groups in Syria, fighting against the Assad regime. This raises troubling questions about the unintended consequences of U.S. involvement in conflicts around the world. The tragic events of August 26, 2021, were not the first time ISIS-K had targeted U.S. service members. Earlier that year, during the American evacuation from Afghanistan, a suicide bomber struck near a checkpoint at the Kabul airport. This attack claimed the lives of more than a dozen U.S. service members and dozens of civilians. It was a grim reminder of the vulnerability of those involved in the evacuation efforts and the deep knowledge ISIS-K possessed about U.S. operations. The collapse of the ANDSF and the Afghan government, coupled with the surprising speed of the Taliban's territorial gains, exposed a failure in intelligence assessments. Despite earlier intelligence reports, the situation on the ground had been underestimated. This miscalculation not only caught U.S. officials and allies off guard, but reportedly even surprised the Taliban themselves. As the Pentagon announced the completion of the U.S. troop withdrawal on August 31, 2021, the remaining U.S. personnel and citizens were left to rely on diplomatic channels for evacuation. However, the aftermath of the American evacuation would be marred by controversy and further revelations. On September 17, 2021, following investigations by the New York Times and the Washington Post, the Pentagon reversed its initial statement regarding the last U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan prior to the official U.S. withdrawal. The strike, which resulted in the deaths of 10 civilians, was deemed a tragic mistake by Marine General Frank McKenzie, the head of U.S. Central Command. However, in December 2021, the Pentagon decided not to punish any military personnel for the attack. The events leading up to the American evacuation from Afghanistan in 2021 were marked by unforeseen collapses, devastating attacks, and shocking revelations. The story of ISIS-K's connection to U.S. intelligence is a chilling reminder of the complexities and dangers of the global war on terror. In the next section, we will delve deeper into the shocking ties between ISIS-K and U.S. intelligence, uncovering the extent of their infiltration and the implications it holds. The attack in Moscow shows that the threat of terrorism is still ongoing, and all hands have to be on deck for it to be defeated. Click on the videos showing on your screen to enjoy more.